This episode of the Linux Action Show is brought to you by DigitalOcean and by Ting. Go to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device or your first month of service. Welcome to Linux Action Show, episode 322. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey, Matt, are you ready for me to tell folks about the big show today?
Let's rock and roll.
All right, well, coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, Rob from the Manjaro project is going to join us, and we'll talk about some of the recent upsets in the Manjaro community and also clear up a ton of misconceptions about the project in general, and look out towards the future, and also find out how far they ever plan to deviate from Arch Linux itself. A great chat with Rob coming up in just a little bit. And of course, we've also got the news. We're going to dig into some new Fedora 21 features, look at Linus's office, and it's like always, every single episode of Linux Action Show, we've got our picks and some great feedback in the feedback segment. We're going to talk about maybe giving Dropbox the drop. Boom, kick it out of here, as I say, right?
Absolutely.
Kick it out of here. But first,
Kaboom.
Matt, we got to do the picks. That's tradition. Got to start with
It's
the
what
picks.
we do. It's how we roll.
And I have asked the audience to send in some picks, but I couldn't pass this one up. This is not an audience pick, but I mean,
You gotta share it, right?
The Vatican runs Linux.
What?
Okay? The Vatican runs
Oh, wow.
Linux. That's right. Here it is, the Vatican's data center. 27 servers total, 7 of which are Unix AIX. 19 in a SUSE and Red Hat environment, and 3 Microsoft machines that are virtualized on Linux hosts. 170 PCs, which use employees of the Vatican Library and the School of Library Science, use the operating system Windows XP with Service Pack 2. But yeah, Linux is all up in the Vatican's office, on laptops, on servers, on their Wi-Fi network, managing their Wi-Fi network. They've got Linux on the back end. On their mail system, they got Linux. They even posted a network diagram
That's
in
pretty
this
impressive.
article. So you can go look at the Vatican's network and go look at their server.
That is pretty crazy. You know, now if they can actually like Raspberry Pi up the Pope Mobile,
Right.
I mean, just like totally automate the navigation.
No, what they need to
that'd
do,
be kind of cool.
What they need to do is get XP off those desktops.
I know that would be step one, right? I mean, we would think so.
I don't think being the Vatican's office protects you from viruses. I don't think you can rely on Jesus antivirus.
I don't think the firewall's working there.
They've got their internet is supplied by 200 megabit fiber optic lines, which they're going to expand to 1 gigabit soon. The Vatican's network is structured into 2 Class C networks with a broadcast in the domain of vatlib.it. These 2 networks are protected internally by 2 first-level firewalls in a Linux Red Hat environment and are connected via those fiber connections.
Would be interesting to see what the SSIDs for the local area might be. You know, the Heaven hotspot, or I mean, like you have a lot of fun, playful options there, right?
Riley in the chat room points out that there is the Ubuntu Christian Remix edition that they could replace Ubuntu XP with.
There we go. And it comes with a lot of the stuff. They could certainly go that route. And they may just actually roll their own distro. These guys may roll hard. They may run Arch.
I love the chat room. Chat room's got a ton of great ideas. Yeah, you know what? Maybe they will roll Arch. I bet they would.
I bet they could do that.
And the Holy Arch. So
That's right.
If you want to join us live and make pot shots at the Vatican, probably not a good idea, but you can go over to jblive.tv. We do this show 10 a.m. Pacific, and we have a chat room embedded over there. And
all in good, playful fun.
we are looking for your Runs Linux submissions and ones that include a video. Just upload the video to YouTube and email us in a link with the description. We'll be featured first because I love some video for our Runs Linux. And I love the community stuff, too. So go ahead and send them in. And so upload your Runs Linux. It could be your home server. It could be a home desktop. It could be a huge project at work. If you got a big data center, if you can go in a server room and send us video from a server room, even if it's from your cell phone, as long as it's not too shaky. And don't do vertical cam. No vertical cam on the Linux Action Show.
None of this, more of this.
Exactly. You turn that thing to the side when you take video, okay?
Horizontal.
I'm talking to you. And send it to, so upload to YouTube and then email it into linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com, and you might just see it in a future episode. Because I'd love that.
Yeesh.
All right, Matt, before we move into our picks this week, I want to thank our first sponsor this week, and that's the great folks over at DigitalOcean.
Woo!
DigitalOcean.com is where you want to go, and you want to grab our promo code so you can get a $10 credit last July. Whoa! July is wrapping up.
I know, it's like, it's almost August.
What the heck?
Already. It's
What
like,
the
oh
heck?
my God.
This is ridiculous. This is egregious. Listen, here's what I want you to do. Let's rock the end of July for DigitalOcean. Let's remind them why they sponsored Linux Action Show, because you guys are awesome and you love any company that is building a product like this based on Linux. Plus, when you use the promo code last July, you're going to get a $10 credit. Now, you don't know about DigitalOcean, let me tell you. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way to spin up a cloud server. Users can create a cloud server in 55 seconds, and pricing plans start only $5 per month. That gets you 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 blazing fast CPU, and a terabyte of transfer connected to Tier 1 bandwidth all over the world. Now, maybe you're more like Corky, and you're like, hey, 55 seconds is cool. How about 31 seconds?
Kaboom.
Boom. And he even submitted the proof right here to the Linux Action Show subreddit, and here's why. Corky would manage to pull this off because DigitalOcean is really excited to introduce their new London data center. They now have a data center in London, which is awesome if you're a local resident, but also awesome for guys like Matt and I who just want to distribute our data all over the world.
That's right. And I would be even more excited if the data center actually looked like that image. I mean, how awesome would that be to walk in there and it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm in Willy Wonka land. Yes. This is so cool.
So Corky was one of the first guys to spin up a server in the new London data center, got it going in 31 seconds. DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, and London now. And their interface is so simple. Their control panel is super intuitive, and power users can even replicate it on a much larger scale. And one of the things that really sets DigitalOcean apart from early on is they invested in SSDs. They realized the additional density that you get with SSDs matched with modern CPUs connected to Tier 1 bandwidth, then you wrap it all up with an incredible interface riding on top of Linux and KVM. Linux and KVM have enabled a fundamental new type of business, and DigitalOcean was one of the first companies to see the whole puzzle and put it all together, and they're able to deliver that for $5 a month. And that's why I've been a DigitalOcean customer now for a long, long time, and when you use that promo code last July, you're going to get that $10 credit. You could use it for free for 2 months.
And I'm telling you, someone that runs more droplets than I like to admit, once you roll one, you're rolling multiple. I mean, you just find yourself going, oh my God, I could do this. Oh my gosh, I could do that. And
well, they've got the snapshots. And, you can make a template and redeploy. You get the root access with the HTML5 console. You can even see the thing boot. Right. I mean, it's just awesome. So go over there, DigitalOcean.com, use the promo code last July, and go get yourself a Linux box in a data center somewhere around the world. Go get a couple of Linux boxes. And once you get one set up, you will be amazed that you never had one before. And by the way, for sysadmins out there too, I would have killed for DigitalOcean back in the day, because think about what it means for scaling on demand. You got a product launch, you're relaunching an app or launching a website for the first time. You need some back-end infrastructure, but you only need it temporarily, or you want to be able to scale it as you need it. DigitalOcean.com. Go check them out. Also great for setting up your own cloud server, BitTorrent sync repository, anything like that. Go set up your own cloud, have root access, DigitalOcean.com last July.
Tell you, you come for the speed and you'll stay for the apps. Because I'm telling you, WordPress, Ghost, the whole package.
So while we're talking about apps, let's do our app pick for the Linux desktop. Now, this isn't going to work for everybody. This is one of those that if you are writing for the web, you might be familiar with Markdown, and you might be looking for a really good Markdown editor on Linux. Well, that's HaroPad, H-A-R-O-Pad, H-A-R-O-O-Pad. And it's available in most repos. It's also available for Windows and Linux, or Windows and what's that other Mac?
That Mac thing.
That Mac operating system. The super trendy music on their video got me all distracted. So HaroPad, I've been using it for about a week. Changed my life.
Oh my gosh.
This text editor has changed my life. I'm not kidding. It is amazing. It has fundamentally made show preparation better, and it's all thanks to Rikai, the show's editor. He found it for me because I was sort of grousing about how I didn't like any of the Markdown editors under Linux, and how I felt like the Mac had a leg up on us, and I was butthurt about it.
Yeah, you were kind of let down. You were like, what the heck?
I featured a few, but none of them really got the job done. And then he's like, boom, HaroPad. And here it is. Here's HaroPad on my GNOME desktop. Let me tell you a little bit what I love about it. First of all, if you're not familiar with Markdown, it's an awesome way for humans to write something up in plain text and then have it easily convert to gorgeous, perfect HTML. That's what Markdown is in a nutshell. So when you're working with a team and not everyone on the team knows HTML, or you just want to bang things out super, super quick and you don't want to have to sit there and fiddle with writing out the HTML syntax, Markdown is amazing. I used it back when I was a contractor for my notes, and now we use all of the shows on Jupiter Broadcasting are written in Markdown, and then we take that Markdown and it's applied at the time of posting. It's translated in HTML. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. And what's great about Markdown is you can still work in HTML with it. Like if you're looking at my screen here, you see I have the big Manjaro background right there. Well, guess what? That's just straight up HTML that I've put in there. So you can work in HTML too.
You can mix and match.
And what HaroPad does is it gives you a real-time preview of what it's going to look like. So say I changed Rob's name to Bob, right?
Okay.
You can see over there now he's Bob, right? And say I say it's Bob from Fedora. That's great. That's not too surprising. That's, and you can see it scrolls with me. That's nice.
Sure.
It's got a lot of built-in options. So if you're not familiar with Markdown, you can have it automatically insert things, all key controlled. So like if I want to do a new heading, like say I was going to insert a new news story right before Fedora, Control 4, right? That makes it a heading 4, and I could say news.
Oh,
story,
that's nice. Because
right?
someone like me who's not real Markdown savvy, this is fantastic because I can shortcut that. Just boom, boom, boom.
And you can also look in the menu. Okay, that's all good. You're like, Chris, that's neat, but I don't understand why you're so excited about HaruPad yet. And I'm like, well, what about the fact that it can publish to PDF and HTML? You're like, Chris, that's not good enough. I'm not sure why you're so excited about HaruPad. All right, Mr. Skeptic, I'll tell you why I'm so excited about HaruPad. If you go into the preferences, get ready for this. This is a huge deal. Trust me. When you look at the viewer and the editor, there is an option to import your website's CSS file.
Ooh.
Bring that into the viewer so that way everything that's rendered in the live preview is rendered exactly as it will be rendered on the Jupiter Broadcasting website. Fonts, quote style, everything.
That is fan-freaking-tastic. I mean, that is truly a but wait, there's more moment. I mean,
huge for me because now I know exactly what it's going to look like when in the past, a lot of times under Linux, I was doing my Markdown in a freaking Google Doc. And it was horrible because I'm essentially coding blind. I would write the whole thing out, and then Rikai would take it and post it. And I'd be like, oh, well, that doesn't look quite right.
The text is like over this direction.
Plus, who wants to do all their text editing in Google Docs? It's torturous. It's horrible. It's the worst. And now with HaruPad, not only do I have a nice plain text editor that's super nice with some nice convenient Markdown stuff, I can now preview it exactly what it'll look like when I publish it, which gives me peace of mind. And not only that, but has actually made me sort of up my game with the show notes. I'm noticing things I didn't notice before. I'm including stuff I hadn't included before. So the show notes are just getting better and better now as a direct result of me using this. And then when I'm done, I can just take this and I just drop the output into a Google Doc, and then we can just use that as our regular Google Doc flow.
I've noticed that when I get the Google Doc show notes now, they're not stained with tears anymore. And I found I was concerned because it's like, well, is Chris no longer editing this? There's no tear stains. I was looking. That
was it. You noticed.
It's like, oh,
you could tell, right? Yeah, I didn't have to sacrifice a goat or anything like that.
There's no goat blood.
It was really nice.
Crazy.
So, and then what's beautiful is HaruPad's available for those other desktops that aren't as awesome as Linux, and those losers can use it too.
That's right. They can feel like us. They're like us by proxy, kind of, sort of.
And of course, there's all kinds of theming. Like I have like a solar theme right now, and so you can see it does syntax highlighting for the Markdown for me, so I can see what's a link and all of that. Love it.
I'm going to be probably looking into that myself because I'm kind of done with notepads.
And there's all kinds of view modes. And yes, for all of you in the chat room, you can toggle Vim mode, and it responds to all Vim commands.
Nice. Well, there you go. I mean, there it is.
Yep. So that's HaruPad. It's free, and it's available in the Arch repo as like. Let me see. I actually have it.
Nice.
I have it right here. The package, if you want to install it from, it's just HaruPad.
Well, that's simple.
HARO pad. One word, and it'll just install on Arch. And I probably other distros too.
I got to ask you, what did we do before drop-down terminals?
I don't know, man. I love Quake.
It's like I can't function now without one. It's just like,
I have Quake on every system. In fact, our desktop Spotlight, this desktop Spotlight, I have exclusively to use in Quake. So on my, every desktop, you can get, Quake's a great one for GTK, not Yawake, I think is the KDE one. Okay. So here we go. So this is our Spotlight open source project of the week.
Cool.
It's geeky. It's Ncurses based. It's NBWMon, and it is perfect to have in your Quake drop-down terminal. So if I go over to this tab here, I've had running this whole time an Ncurses bandwidth monitor. You know me, Matt. I love my bandwidth monitors, right?
It's all about the graph horn.
I want to know what my system's up to. I want to know when it's talking to the network. And sometimes, and one of the reasons I do this, by the way, is I have actually found and resolved many an issue just by noticing excessively higher network performance or bandwidth transfer than I expected, like Dropbox going crazy or something like that by watching my bandwidth. So it's called, again, NBWMon, and you can see right here I'm monitoring my main Ethernet port. I don't really have a way to generate traffic necessarily. I guess I could do like a Pac-Man sync.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll probably... so now I'm going out and I'm generating some traffic. And you can see there. You see how it's spiked right there?
You got a big spike there, and it's very visible.
Well, and the reason why I like an Ncurses application like this, and obviously there's GNOME System Monitor that could do this, K-System Monitor.
Yeah, but they're kind of...
Here's why I like this one. Not only is it just great to have in a Quake terminal, but later on, if I'm remotely troubleshooting my box, because one of the things that I do is I always have SSH running, even if it's locked down, so that way if my X session locks up, I can remote into my box, using SSH, kill the process without having to reboot and lose everything. Right? It's a great troubleshooting.
That's actually really smart.
Yeah. And what's nice about these ncurses tools is when I'm in that mode of, crap, I got to fix this, all of my ncurses tools are available to me. So I love having a little cache of ncurses tools that I use either when I'm not having a problem, because when I want to use them when I'm not having a problem, so that way when I am having a problem, I'm very familiar with how they work. And that's why these command line tools are great. So again, you can go find it right now. It's NBWMon on GitHub, and in the AUR it is nbwmon-git.
I like it because it's not this big bloated gooey monitor that you really don't need, and that you got to bring up the window every time.
It's not pegging your CPU. No. See, the thing is, the bigger gooey ones are constantly pegging the CPU to get their stuff. This is I've had this running for 2 days now.
And see, that's going to give you the details you want without taking the CPU hits and wasting resources in general.
Yeah, I love it. It's a cool little command line tool, and you'd be surprised what you can get from it.
Sure.
It can also do full output reports. It can monitor and give you reports on your peak speed performance. It has support for multiple network interfaces. It can also just so one of the things is sometimes I'm on Ethernet, sometimes I'm on Wi-Fi. It will automatically try to determine which interface is active and just start monitoring that one by default if you don't specify.
Exactly.
Really cool. It's a nice little program. And the other thing that's nice about it is you see it's in this drop-down. It has good support for resizing on the fly. So if I move my window around, you can see that the app really intelligently and elegantly resizes the ncurses interface to match.
Oh, so you got it's almost for you audio listeners, it's like if you think about a web page, it's adaptive, and you're shrinking it down.
Scalable,
exactly.
A responsive design.
Mobile, exactly. I'll tell you, it's kind of the rage now. Mobile, not mobile. Mobile, not mobile. It's kind of the same thing.
Which is great because SSH small screen, big 1080p resolution laptop.
That's right.
So go check it out. We'll have a link to it in the show notes.
Won't hit your netbook.
You might just find it in a repo near you.
Dun dun dun.
All right, Matt. Let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Matt, go over to last.ting.com to get started because that'll take $25 off your first device. Or if you got a device, they'll give you a $25 credit. Now, Matt's rocking the Note 2 right there. Boom. Because I'm unprepared and unprofessional, I forgot to bring my Nexus 5 down here, which I'm already regretting because we're about to get to an app pick from Kyra, and I already know I want it just based on the title. But before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit about Ting, because it's mobile that truly, absolutely, finally makes sense. In fact, I think if we could do a reboot on the whole mobile industry and consumers could choose how the mobile industry would be structured, it would be just like Ting. Here's why. No contracts, no early termination fees, and you only pay for what you use. And my favorite part is $6 a month. That's all. That the line starts at $6 a month. That's my. Honestly, I can't get past that. And the reason I can't get past that is because as a small business owner now, I've got a little mini fleet of phones, and that is huge for us because we're all fairly technically savvy, so we're all just totally on Wi-Fi all the time. We're making, even like when we're making calls, we're making Viber Wi-Fi calls. It's awesome. So the savings for me is outrageous because I can empower a team with mobile communications and not pay out the butt. In fact, if you have more than 10 devices, you are almost absolutely guaranteed to save money, but you don't have to have 10. One device, you can save money. There's a lot of folks out there who've gone to the Ting savings calculator and realized they'll save up to $2,000 to $3,000 a month depending on their bill. It's unbelievable what people are paying for.
That is crazy. I mean, at that point, it's a no-brainer.
No-brainer because it's new hardware every couple of years. So go to last.ting.com to check them out. And don't forget that if you decide to make the switch, you're going to have a good safety net, too. They've got no-hold customer service, 1-855-TING-FTW. Anytime between 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern on a business day, and a real person answers the phone and solves your problem. And then, like me, I've been able to, all of the phones that we now have, I've been able to manage, activate, deactivate, transfer ownership, all through the incredible Ting dashboard. I've never had to call them to do any of that stuff. I've ordered new phones. I've deactivated phones. It's awesome. Plus, you get a snapshot of exactly where you're at with your bill. You can set up alert thresholds. You can set what to do when calls come in and what not to do when calls, et cetera, et cetera. It's so great, you guys. But I think the best part about Ting is the team. They really care about Android. They really care about mobile. They love it. And that's why they do these app picks. And I used to do app picks. Dude, they're crushing. I could never do app picks like Kyra does. So I thought, look at this one. It's called Dash Dock Widget. I know I'm going to put this on my Nexus 5 as soon as we watch it, Matt. So let's check it out.
Want to see all your important notifications at a glance? I'm Kyra, and this is Ting's App of the Week.
Go Ting!
Dash Clock Widget is an awesome replacement lock screen for Android devices running Jelly Bean or higher. It adds extensions to your home screen to quickly let you see additional info about notifications you've received. First, make sure Enabled Widgets is selected in your lock screen security settings. Then, after downloading the widget, swipe to the left page of your lock screen and press the plus icon. Choose Dash Clock to add the widget and customize what you'd like to see. To make this the primary lock screen widget and replace the default clock, simply drag the screen to the rightmost position. Dash Clock lets you add any of the extensions that interest you.
That is sweet.
Tap the menu button on the right to remove an extension and change the individual settings. Dash Clock has also added a variety of appearance and design options if you're looking to put your own spin on things. When you're on your lock screen, you'll see the app icons with notifications in the top right. To access additional info, swipe down. Want to respond to an email or find out more about today's weather? Tap on the extension to open the respective app. If you're looking for a simple way to view your notifications, Dash Clock is a great improvement from Android's original lock screen. Grab it now for free on Google Play. You can find the link beside me or in the description below. Make sure to subscribe to Ting for future reviews, unboxings, and more. Thanks for watching.
Last.ting.com. Go check out mobile that makes sense. And if you play around with Firefox OS or Ubuntu Touch, I'm not saying they officially support it, but Ting has such an awesome community. You'll find people there that are working on it. I've been using both, and it's been awesome to know that Ting isn't one of those providers that freaks out, oh, you're not following the rules. I mean, don't come to them expecting them to be able to fix it, but in a lot of ways, they're just as excited about Firefox OS and Ubuntu Touch as we are, and that's what's super awesome. And I'm going to tell you, that app pick, I went over to, while she was talking about it, I went over to the Play Store. Yeah, I'm installing it right now on my Nexus 5.
Nice.
I forgot you could just do it remotely. Like, why wouldn't I just do that?
It's like, ow.
Dash Clock is awesome. So a Dash Clock widget, you can search for it in the Play Store. It's a great app pick.
You know what I like about the demos that she does? So she's not only showing you, hey, this app is great, but more importantly, and I think this is critical, hey, by the way, here's how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, here's the side of the screen you need to roll this to.
Yeah.
Here's how you pick your clock.
Yeah.
It's great.
Go check them out, last.ting.com. See why
right.
we switched over a year ago now and why we're so happy with it. And honestly, you'll realize how taken advantage you've been by your existing carrier, last.ting.com. And a big thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Yay!
Okay, so we were talking about this a little bit on the pre-show, but everybody saw this video that went around about Linus's office. At least I hope everyone has. If you haven't, we're about to play it for you. And before we do, even if you have seen it, let's watch it together again, because I think actually getting to see inside the inventor of Linux's home office is kind of a big deal from a historic standpoint and from an interest standpoint.
Kind of get at some inner workings on his brain a little bit.
And you know what? I watched this video. I ended up liking him even more.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Because he's been humanized. He's no longer this like ominous being that floats around in the clouds.
This is something the Linux Foundation has been doing, and it's so cool. So let's we'll take a look here. Here's a video from the Linux Foundation, a tour of Linus's home office. It's unplugged too, Matt. You
That's
like
important.
That? Yeah, I like things that are unplugged. Got some awards too.
Yes, he does.
So this is my working space. I've been using a walking desk for the last 3 or 4 months now. I'm not sure how much it does for me, but I'm sure it's healthier than just sitting down. I'm also trying to keep my desk clean, because if you pan over to my old desk, which I don't...
I like how the a guy who was recording this video was like being super respectful to Linus and not showing that part.
Oh, yeah.
And then Linus is like, no, go ahead, pan over. Show him the desk.
Well, Linus's dungeon does run Linux. You don't want to end up there.
What do you think about a walking desk? Did you see that coming?
My wife's been bugging me about doing a standing desk. It's like, for one thing, I don't have the cash to buy one right now.
Well,
secondly, it's like, honestly, I'd much rather just go walk the dogs or something else.
True.
Or go, garage sale.
You know what it is? During the week, I stand at this table. I don't sit.
Oh, okay.
And for me, it's because it's like if I'm doing something for a certain amount of hours a day, I start to feel bad about sitting so much. And I feel like I'm like, there's just a lot of science too around like how that's bad for your body and your blood flow and things like that. So for me, I started standing here, and my wife got me like a little mat that I put out during the week.
Good.
And then by about then for the Linux Action Show and stuff, we sit down because we're sitting here for a couple of hours.
There it is.
But a walking desk?
A walking desk? No, I'd just soon mow the lawn.
Yeah, but that is, you know what? That is a man who has been working on a lot of things. That's what that desk is. And I'm going to tell you just straight up, I am noticing some Apple paraphernalia there. I'm noticing some D-Link, some Linksys paraphernalia, and this. I'm checking out this MakerBot printer here too, which you'll get to here in just a bit.
Actually use anymore because it got so filled with crap. I don't know what to do about this anymore. I need to burn it down someday. I used to work night times, but then I got kids. and the kids go to school. And that means that we had to wake up at 7:30 or so to take the kids to school. It's not exactly a 9-to-5 job, but it is actually fairly close. And you can see that in the commit logs. It's interesting. I sometimes do statistics of which time zones people are and what time people are working at. And these days, you can definitely tell that a lot of people are actually keeping pretty regular hours. I'm not the only one with kids, clearly. It's set at a very slow speed. I call it my zombie shuffling desk, because if I put it any faster than 1 mile an hour, my mouse movements get very erratic and I no longer can close my windows. I only have a web browser, which is how I read email, and a couple of terminal windows open.
Now let's just pause here for a moment, because we talked about how the Vatican runs Linux.
Right.
Now, this is Linus Torvalds, creator of Linux. And if you take a quick look, and this isn't totally new information, but if you look closely at his screen, if you zoom and enhance in there, you will see that Linus Torvalds, creator of Linux, maintainer of the Linux kernel, uses GNOME Shell.
Yes, it does.
With the Adowa theme, I think it is. The Adowa theme.
He used to run a MacBook Pro. So
I'm just saying, GNOME Shell users, unite! The chosen desktop.
Which is where I end up doing my Git pulls and any coding, although the coding part is not that common anymore. In between emails, I end up reading various tech sites and sometimes not so tech sites, depending on what's going on. I'm going to stop this because I'm having a hard time walking sideways.
There's a 3D printer.
This guy, I was actually really hoping that the kids would find interesting, because when I grew up, if I had had something like this, I would have been all over it. And my oldest has actually been using this for school projects and things like that. So it has gotten some use. I'd like to say that all this is prized possessions, but it's actually just garbage.
Is that a serial cable?
Yeah, not very emotional when it comes to technology. So old technology is just old and broken, and I'd much rather play with the new stuff. When I get new technology, it happens quite often, I don't want to throw the hard disks out. So I literally have this pile of hard disks that have accumulated over the last 15 years.
Jeez.
I'm supposed to wipe them or use a hammer on them and then throw them out, but I'm just too lazy. Usually the view looks like this.
Love it.
Because I don't want the sun to come in and disturb me. So,
no, of course not.
No, I don't either.
This time of year, it's not as distracting, but in a couple of months, I will have that closed completely because I do not want to see outside. And then you have various scuba equipment. There's 2 cameras there. There's a pair of scuba fins and my regulator in the other corner. For some reason, people keep sending me penguins.
Imagine that.
And we have a lot more than these, but we ended up basically giving away the duplicates. So these are mostly unique.
A little Dilbert comet action there.
Oh,
wow. So this is just a great look. He's got a sword.
Well, yeah. I mean, how do you think he keeps the developers in there? Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's a great cap right there.
Yeah. They did great work on that video.
They did.
So I didn't really plan for this, but let me see if I can be Johnny on the spot with something. Digging through my clip archive here, I've got so that's a very recent interview. I think they just did that like about a month ago. So that's pretty recent. I wanted to see now if I could dig through. I have in my old archives here. It was at the time of the launch of Windows 98. There's a look at check that out, Matt. I don't know if you saw that. Caught that really. That was a really super young Robert Scoble.
Anyways, was that really real? Oh my God!
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Crap,
yeah. So here, let's take a look. Here is Linus Torvalds being interviewed during the launch of Windows 98 for the Computer Chronicles, and it's a pretty amazing look back at a younger Linus.
Linux, because it was developed by a Finnish programmer named Linus Torvalds.
So there's Linus coming out of his house.
Torvalds is a 28-year-old software engineer from Sweden. In 1991, when he was a student at Helsinki University in Finland, he wanted to buy a personal computer, but he was not happy with the choice of operating systems.
The problem was the machine is just half of what you need. The other part is the software, and quite frankly, it just sucked.
So Linus developed his own operating system, one he could afford, based on Unix.
I had been programming for half my life at that point. I was 21, and I just knew that I was the best programmer in the world. I mean, I was young, I was brash, and I thought, hey, I can do better than this.
So we'll leave it at that. I'll feature that more in a future episode. But you can also, in the show notes, we will have a link to Greg Kay's office. He did one for the Linux Foundation a little bit ago. He took it himself. I'll play just a clip of it, but you guys can check out the full video in the show notes.
Hi, this is Greg Crow Hartman. This is my workstation where I work. I got a ergonomic keyboard, dual monitors, attached to an old i5 motherboard.
Looks like he's building something right there.
Handmade little penguin, driver book.
So we'll have a link to that video in the show notes if you guys want to see a tour of. It's pretty visual dependent, so we'll skip that one for the audio listeners. But it's pretty neat.
Should do Jupiter Broadcasting cribs.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And if you have a soft spot for the nostalgia stuff, on Monday we're recording Linux Unplugged this week, and we're gonna do a little retro Linux segment. And then on Wednesday's Tech Talk Today, I went back and we looked at the origins of the internet via ARPANET, all the way up to the first proto-podcaster and things like that. Really good episode of Tech Talk Today for Wednesday, looking back at the history of the internet too. Anyways, moving on in the news segment, I want to talk a little bit about Fedora. I felt like we needed to make good. Fedora has just a ton of stuff going on right now in the project. Plus, they're working on the new release of Fedora, and we just have not gotten a chance to talk about it, in part because I really want to have a chance to wrap my head around what they're working on and where they're going out with Fedora Next and all that kind of stuff. Well, Fedora Magazine just had a new issue released on the 16th of this week, and they talk a little bit about some of the stuff coming down the road for Fedora Linux. Also, I believe Linus's distro of choice. They talk about how Docker is going to play a pivotal role. They say in Fedora Cloud, that's one of the additions that Fedora will have now. We're planning on producing official Fedora Docker-based images. I assume that they mean these will be uploaded to the Docker Hub. Right. These will be produced and uploaded by the Fedora release engineering team right now because Docker is a key part, they say, of the upcoming Project Atomic-based Fedora Atomic project that we've talked a little bit about. They say it looks like Docker and containerization will play an important role across the future of Fedora.
Makes sense. I mean, for what the direction it sounds like they're trying to go in, I mean, why reinvent the wheel when you can use an effective tool like Docker just out of the box? It does make a lot of sense. I agree with it.
And we'll go on from there. They talk a little bit about Docker was a topic of conversation amongst Fedora. It has been for a while now. And Fedora Workstation member Christian Schaller, which we talked about last week, talked about how Fedora and Docker will work together for future plans on the desktop. They say it's in early stages right now, but the Fedora server work group has also been discussing using and implementing Docker for different server roles. So you will implement a server role in Fedora, and perhaps that would be accomplished by deploying a Docker image.
That makes sense to me. I think it's the way to go. I think they're definitely onto something.
Yeah, I think it's really neat to see the Fedora project working on this kind of stuff.
And I think it's very directional for them because before it's like, okay, here's a great distro. Okay, then what? It didn't really have that standout thing that made you say, "Oh my gosh, they do this really well."
Yeah,
I think this is that thing they really need to latch onto to really differentiate themselves.
And producer Eric has been running the new Fedora beta, checking it out, so that way we can start to get our our hands a little wet, so we have an idea of where they're going. And he's been playing with DNF, the new package manager. Says he loves it a lot.
Okay, cool.
It says the new package manager is super fast. It does it'll download and install at the same time. It's multi-threaded, so you can chew through a lot of stuff. So I'm looking forward to installing Fedora and doing a deep dive in that in the near future.
Yeah.
One thing that what Google announced this week that I think could have huge long-term ramifications for open sources Linux is Project Zero. Now, Project Zero is an initiative by Google to essentially hire and pay people to find critical flaws in commonly used software. It's kind of vague, but yeah, I know, right? It's kind of all early days. Wow. So here's where it gets interesting. Google also hired the well-known hacker George Hotz. He's joined Project Zero. Hotz is well known for hacking the PlayStation 3 network and often jailbreaking the iPhone. He's usually the guy that works around that. He's 24 years old. He's also known as GeoHot. You might be familiar with that term if you're a TechSnap follower. He hacked into the PlayStation Network so you could install Linux on the PS. Remember when they turned that off?
I remember that, yes.
And he's like, well, wait a minute, I want Linux on my PS3.
And the ClickBank books exploded at that point.
And then like the whole PS3 network hacking thing started from that. Project Zero from Google aims to reduce the threat that zero-day attacks represent by funding vulnerability research and hiring top security specialists and hackers. They're not saying it. But what it really is it's an initiative to find zero-day flaws in open-source software before the NSA does.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's, I mean, I know it's kind of like evil for evil in some people's eyes, but I think at the end of the day, as long as the information's made public by Google, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Google will publish a public database of vulnerabilities found as well as how long it takes companies to react to those bug reports to fix the problem.
I don't have a problem with that.
There's going to be a little bit of a public shaming aspect to get these guys, like Oracle and those other companies, to actually patch their crap in a reasonable amount of time.
That's like Netflix does with ISPs. That's the way I see it. It really is.
It seems to be an effective method to get people off their butt and actually take some sort of action. And I like... Remember how when the Heartbleed vulnerability was found, I said, isn't it incumbent upon these companies that ride on the back of open source and Linux to go out there and fund the ability to find flaws and fix them, because they are serving their own customers by resolving issues in open source. By auditing OpenSSL, Google is therefore protecting their very own customers that use OpenSSL to use Google services. So by going out there and being proactive about vulnerabilities in open source, they are protecting their customers. Just like if they developed that software in-house. If instead of using OpenSSL, they wrote their own SSL implementation from scratch, which they would never do. But if they had done that, they would be responsible for auditing and finding vulnerabilities. Well, once you start to use something at the scale that Google does, you are just as responsible, even if you weren't the originator of that code. It is your responsibility to make sure that the code you are deploying at scale like that is safe. And I believe Project Zero is a step in the right direction. It could get to be one of those things like Microsoft has now, where they're going and doing raids on no IP and shutting down service, and they're working with banks and law enforcement together in sort of a fascist kind of creepy way where they shut down funding to legitimate businesses, and then they go in there with, law enforcement, and they actually raid offices. I don't think Google's going to do that.
No, I don't. Here's the real reason why I think they're doing it is they're not doing it out of the kindness of their own heart. I mean, at the end of the day, they're covering their butts, but they are looking at it practically and saying, rather than trying to undertake this entire thing ourselves, let's publicly shame those people that are responsible for dealing with this and make sure it's addressed. And at the same time, as a side benefit, we look great. So cool. That's kind of what they're doing.
It sounds like they're assembling a legitimate team.
Yes.
Which is good.
Very smart.
They include, security is a top priority for Google. We've invested a lot in making our products more secure, including strong SSL encryption for Search, Gmail, and Drive. And this is also their way, I think, in response to the NSA leak, saying, no, we take security seriously, and we are going to take tangible public efforts to make security better. So that way, instead of just see what Microsoft has been doing, is they've been issuing press releases, they've been fighting the Justice Department, and those are all good things. Obviously, they need to happen. But what I really wanted to see was engineers sit down and start solving some of the problems that these out-of-control spy agencies were able to take advantage of from the first place.
Well, see, Microsoft's got a new plan for that. It's called go ahead and find these things from the unemployment line. We're going to go ahead and lay a bunch of you guys off, and
no kidding, right?
So you got that going. I think Microsoft is so focused on trying to find its direction, I don't think they have time to do that. So because they are busy laying people off. They're busy coming up with these clever little weird commercials and stuff like that. They're so into marketing mode and rebranding mode.
And writing really great memos. Super great memos.
God, yeah, right. So, their focus is all over the map. And at the end of the day, I don't think they are anytime soon going to actually take this direction seriously. I just don't.
I think if any company like, Facebook had announced something like this, I'd be semi-skeptical. If, when Google does it, I'm like, actually, if anybody has sort of the wherewithal to pull this off and also the financial interest to do it, it's Google.
And I'm very practical about it. I don't go, oh, Google, they're my friend. I trust them. No, I'm looking at this very practically.
They're doing it for their own good.
They're covering their butts, and they know it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and that's cool, though. That's fine. We get benefit.
Yeah, in this case, it covers our butt, too.
Sure. So I'm okay with that.
Everybody's butt has a nice protective cover now, and that's just how we like our butts.
Sanitized for your protection.
Yes, exactly. Nice and shielded.
That's right.
All right, Matt, that's all the news for this week. We're about to talk with Rob McCathie from the Manjaro project, but before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor for this segment, System 76. Go over to System76.com. Matt, look at that beautiful rig right there. Look at that. That is the Ultra Pro, buddy. And it is this.
Great.
I had one for a little while we went to Linux Fest Northwest, one of the best computers I've ever had.
Yeah.
Fate in our chat room right now is a proud Ultra Pro owner. We got several in our chat room, actually, that are proud Ultra Pro owners. Of course, System 76 has all kinds of machines that are designed from the get-go to run Linux. And if there's any problems with it, they won't ship it. They're very meticulous. Every product you see from System 76 is the result of weeks and months and hours of testing of a product before it becomes something that System 76 is willing to sell. Then they become an active participant in the community. So when you buy from System 76, you're voting with your wallet to support a company who overall helps the Linux ecosystems, brings people over to Linux, and even works really closely with education too. The desktops are built right here in the U.S., and the laptops are, bar none, the most compatible with Linux you're going to find. I run the Bonobo right here, well over a year, and still no complaints.
Oh, he loves this. He
Zero.
games on this machine.
Oh, every time.
Awesome.
Oh, this is
awesome.
This is actually, ironically, I think because the machine I hand-built upstairs, see, I should know better. Yeah. The machine I hand-built upstairs, I cannot get, and which has a 2 newer generation video card, I cannot get it to perform as well as this Bonobo does.
Isn't that wild?
Well, there's just something to the fact that when a machine from its conception, when it's considered to run Linux from its conception and all of the components are vetted like that, you just in the long run have less issues. What happens is you end up fighting, instead of fighting your hardware, you get to play with your Linux. Right now I'm fighting my hardware. And I tell you, it's very frustrating. That's why it's nice when I want a game, I just come right down to the Bonobo, I get a great experience, it works every single time. And of course, you can run Ubuntu, you can run any distribution on them. System76.com. Go get yourself something nice and tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. We really appreciate it. And thanks to System 76 for sponsoring this segment. So I'm really excited to welcome Rob from the Manjaro project to the Linux Action Show. Rob, welcome to the big show. And could you tell folks what you do at the Manjaro project?
Hi, guys. Yep, I'm Rob McCathie, as the guy said. I am a package maintainer for Manjaro, and I am an edition maintainer. The Netbook edition and the Enlightenment edition, ISOs that I put together, and various other bits and pieces.
I've noticed on the Manjaro site, one of the things that attributed to you is you also are the keeper of the kernel for Manjaro. Is that current? You still do that?
No, I'm the secondary kernel maintainer. Phil Muller is the primary maintainer.
Okay.
Still.
Okay.
All right.
Phil,
Well, that's still a
does
good.
the vast majority of it.
Hey, man, you still got kernel maintainer in your title. That's pretty good. So, Rob, there's a lot going on with Manjaro in the recent weeks, and I want to get to that here in a minute, but I thought maybe just give us some context to all of what's going on. We'd start with the origins of Manjaro. Manjaro's semi-recent, it's been around for a few years, but when it was started, obviously, there was already a lot of distributions on the scene. You guys were clearly aware of that. The team recognized that fact. So I'm betting there was probably some core ideas and some major problems that Manjaro felt like it could set out to solve. What were those core issues for the Manjaro project early on that really kind of sparked things to make you guys be committed to building a distro like this?
Okay, well, I'm going to have to give a fairly terrible answer to this question because
there's no terrible answer. I'm curious.
I'm not the greatest person to ask about the origins of Manjaro because relatively I'm a newcomer to the team.
Sure.
So I wasn't there for the early days. Obviously, Roland Singer or Phil Muller are good people to ask. And Phil Muller is in chat right now. And to be honest, if you wanted him in on this interview on Skype, we could arrange that.
Well, we should probably have him on a future show too. That'd be great. I'm just curious from your perspective. Really, I just want to hear it from all of these questions are really your take on it. I'm just curious to hear it from Rob's point of view.
Well, look, I mean, I know that Roland originally, Manjaro started as a thread on the Arch forums, I believe, by Roland Singer. And yeah, basically, my understanding and everything I've read is he exactly what you'd expect. He wanted to make, a release of what was effectively Arch Linux, but that was much more approachable for a novice user.
Okay,
and that's
cool.
I mean, that's in a nutshell it. So
and the choice to go with Arch really back then was not super common. I mean, it's more common now. You'll see a lot of distributions that like Antigros and Shaka Raka Bing Bang, a lot of other ones that are based on Arch Linux. But Manjaro was one of the first. How core is Arch to Manjaro's identity in your opinion?
Extremely core. If I didn't personally feel that virtually all of my Arch knowledge can be directly applied to Manjaro, I probably wouldn't be using Manjaro. So
how far do you see Manjaro potentially moving away from Arch down the road? Like, as maybe certain things that come up in the project that the really only way you see to solve it is if something's built on your own or you take a deviation from Arch. Do you see Manjaro willing to take some big steps in that regard? I mean, there's separate repos now and things like that.
I can't speculate for many years down the track on what Phil and Roland might have planned.
That's fair.
But for the near future, no, we won't be stepping away from Arch in any big way.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, anyway.
All right. So let's talk about the recent team shakeup. I mean, I think people that maybe are not 100% familiar because maybe they haven't been following the story closely. 2 weeks ago, are we now into this? There was an article that was posted up on Phoronix.com, and the title was really grabbed everybody's attention. Major Linux developer experience a mass exodus. According to multiple sources, there was a major exodus of Manjaro developers, he goes on to say in the article. Of course, Philip Mueller tried to make some public statements, but of course the ball was already rolling here. So, Rob, from your perspective, what was this mass exodus that Michael's writing about here, and how bad is it compared to what we've been led to believe?
Look, I mean, to get the entire story of events that's related to this would take an hour to explain.
Sure.
But look, firstly, that article is a massive exaggeration, and frankly, in a lot of areas, just incorrect. It has absolutely not been a mass exodus of developers. One person who was actually like a coding developer left, and the maintainer of the OpenBox edition left. That's the only two people that you could class as developers that left. There is still something like 14 or 15 other developers, and then in addition to that, a whole bunch more support staff and everything on our team. A few people left, a small handful in the scheme of things. So that article by Michael, certainly the headline of the article, is very inaccurate.
Can you go into some detail for me? One of the things that sort of confused the situation was it appeared to be that people impersonating project members were joining forums and making posts, posing as Manjaro developers. I also noticed in our subreddit, when the story broke, that there appeared to be one or two people in the comment threads sort of inciting anti-Manjaro sentiment, making claims about people in the project, sort of stoking discontent. Can you share some light on what was happening there?
Yeah, well, Manjaro has had a what I'd call a smallish troll problem for a little while, but it's hard because I'm speculating a bit. But one of the team members that left, there was a few things said and a few issues and a few things they did, which were pretty much malicious things. We don't know 100% for sure if that person's involved, but the point is there are trolls out there, at least one, maybe two, at least one person is trying to troll us. As you said, they're out there impersonating Manjaro developers on other forums and stuff like that. That's basically it. The troll also attacked my packages, not attacked, but he tried to, what I'd say, troll me on AUR as well, on Arch user repository.
Wow.
In that he made an account there and flagged all of my packages out of date, which none were, and flagged one of them for deletion as well. Basically, yeah, we've got people out there doing malicious things, and every opportunity they get to get on our forums and post explicit images, try to trick other users into posting reset password links so they can get into their accounts on the forums. Like, it's some pretty serious trolling, and that's sort of what we've been
Do you have any insights?
This troll has been out there perpetrating that things within the team are much worse than they are.
Do you have any insights? What's motivating this person? Was there some sort of disagreement, some sort of falling out that they feel wronged and somehow justified in doing this kind of crap?
Well, if the person doing it is who I think it is, then yes, there's certainly that there was disagreements. If it is who I think it is, a particular ex-team member who's one of the people who left, then yes, it's because of the disagreements from within the team that this has happened.
That's too bad.
So it's interesting because it seems almost like the flip side of something I've observed about the Manjaro community itself. The Manjaro community seems pretty vibrant, pretty tight-knit group, especially on the forums and other places where Manjaro users collect, like the subreddit for Manjaro. Yeah. It reminds me in some ways a lot like the proto-Ubuntu community. Before Ubuntu got big, there was this real core, super passionate community that set up unofficial forums and all of these things. So do you think this is maybe the opposite side of that, where when you have people that are so passionate and so involved that when they get wrong, they're now on the other end of the spectrum and they're so angry about it? Is that what we're seeing, or is there something deeper here?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what I think it is that someone, well, I don't know if I'd describe it as passionate. I just think that we're annoyed. Look, one of the people who left, the person who I think it is, they abused the administrative and moderation privileges of their forum account. They did things that they should not have done. They did not have the right to do. And as a result of that, they got banned. So they're angry and unhappy. And that's basically it. I just think that that it's been taken to heart, and it's someone who can't just leave something be, and this is what they've gone and done.
Yeah, it's been my experience that, especially with the internet, sometimes when, a series of events happens and then someone comes away feeling, I don't know how else to use it other than the word butthurt, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's it.
They come away feeling not wronged in some way, and they lash out in some way to where it's almost like they feel like there's like an effectiveness to their maliciousness, and it really isn't. It just makes them look like a fool. I don't understand why people do that, but unfortunately they do, and I'm glad that you're able to come on here and kind of set the record straight.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe, Rob, is there anything else you want to touch on this setup, like where things stand now and things like that?
Well, I mean, all I can do is sort of reiterate what I said earlier, in that the team absolutely has not had a mass exodus. It is not falling apart. Definitely not. To be honest, even if quite a few people did leave it, there is like a central core few people to Manjaro, and as long as they are there, it will always keep going. And yeah, that's basically it. Just that the Phoronix article and what some people have been hearing is massive, either exaggeration or is outright incorrect.
Do you think that, do you, I'm going to say something. Tell me, Rob, if you agree with this. It seems to me that my perception is there is a bit more drama around the Manjaro project than some other distributions out there. More so than, maybe not drama is the right word, but more controversy from time to time, people with big disagreements or, philosophical disagreements. And so perhaps because of that it led people to believe this more? Do you think that's a possibility?
I would say it is no worse than what there was in the early days of Ubuntu with Debian.
Yeah, right.
So
it's sort of a symptom of being a fledgling new distro community, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's
honestly, I mean, surely you guys remember some of the stuff back in the days with Debian and Ubuntu. I mean, it's and now you've got Manjaro and Arch. It's
right. And I wonder though, this is okay, Rob, you and I are on the same page here. That's exactly what I was thinking. This is very much reminds me of Ubuntu to Debian and now Arch to Manjaro, but I wonder if, because we're in that phase right now, it sort of gave people the inclination to believe this a little more. And this, to me, seems a bit like a marketing problem at the end of the day for the project, because if the tone was set right, people might not likely buy into the story as much. Right. And now, of course, that's just something that takes time, and obviously you guys are already working towards that by putting out good product over and over again, and eventually that tone will be set. And I think it's sort of like an early growth thing. But do you in the project, do you feel like the project sees it much like the Ubuntu-Debian relationship, where you have Arch as sort of the base, and then Manjaro will make deviations much like Ubuntu has, but never stray too far? Is that how you kind of see the relationship? Is it an equivalent to that?
Well, yes, and my opinion. Well, I would say that we've strayed less from Arch than Ubuntu did from Debian, even in the early days.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah. Rob, I know one thing you wanted to address before we wrap up is that there's a few maybe misconceptions about Manjaro that Arch users have in general.
Oh yeah.
And I know, like, if you want to take a second before we get into sort of the future of Manjaro and where things are going, did you want to take a second on how, like, the kernel updates are handled, how repo freezing works for short periods of time, just to clear up any kind of misconceptions there?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I've got a whole bunch of notes here. I was hoping we'd get to a few of them. Is there any? Do you want me to just start on them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go
for it, Rob.
All right. Well, one of the first things I'd definitely like to talk about is the kernel situation, because I do hear pretty often people saying things like, "Oh, the Manjaro kernel, that they do all this different patching and all these changes compared to the Arch kernel." Surely you guys have heard this as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Here is a blow for blow of the differences between Arch's current Linux kernel 3.15, the current Arch Linux package just called Linux, their kernel 3.15, and our 3.15 kernel.
Okay.
So we offer a range of different kernels. You guys have used Manjaro, we offer quite a few different series. But I'm going to do the best comparison I can, which is the current Arch kernel and our series of the same kernel, the 3.15 kernel. The differences between the Arch and the Manjaro kernel is we have 2 patches that come that are sourced originally from Gentoo that address a couple of issues on some Lenovo or IBM ThinkPads.
Okay.
One addresses a brightness control issue. One addresses a microphone mute LED issue. That it makes it work properly. They only even have any kind of effect if the hardware IDs of those products are there, sort of thing, are in use. Other than that, the only 2 other things we have is AUFS, AUFS. It's a union layered file system. Basically, we encourage our community to make their own spins if they want, and AUFS 3 is required for the live CD or the live environment. Arch's own installation media runs a different kernel to normal that includes AUFS as well, because they need it for their installation media. So we have that goes in all our kernels. And the only other thing that we now have, which is a relatively recent addition, is the BFQ IO scheduler.
Oh, snaps. Boy, Rob, you won me over right there.
Well, one of the...
that is it. They are the only differences. You've got...
So what you're telling me is I'm installing
BFQ,
Manjaro then.
and 2 patches that address a couple of things on Lenovo ThinkPads. That's it.
That's actually really sensible. And switching over to the BFQ scheduler just makes for a better desktop experience. It doesn't break compatibility as far as I know.
I mean, one of the big hardware differences I noticed, and actually my nephew's using this laptop right now, is if you install any other Arch-based distro, including Arch proper, good luck with installing it, because you need network support and it would not work. Manjaro was the only Arch-based distro that actually detected the Ethernet card, period. Just factually, that's just what it was. So, right there, that kind of goes to show why a lot of people are leaning that direction.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so that does clear it up quite a bit from me, kernel regards. And of course, the thing about that is it could always change in the future as needs come up, obviously. But it sounds like there's an effort to try to minimize the deviations at the kernel level as much as possible.
Yeah, well, we don't have any particular desire to deviate from Arch where we don't have to, so we don't.
Well, I love that. I mean, it's interesting that you guys made the choice for BFQ. For those not watching, or those of you not aware that are watching, the BFQ scheduler it's a new way to manage disk I/O for the Linux kernel that, especially if you have an SSD drive, makes a huge performance difference. So I'm really excited that you guys included BFQ. It kind of makes me want to, for my next reload, go that direction. Definitely. So, okay, that's kernel. Now, do you want to...
I've been using BFQ for years. It's activated by default now in Manjaro, and it is a fantastic I/O scheduler.
Yeah, well, it's going
to... nothing beats it.
That's interesting, too, because that means, quite literally, somebody could install straight Arch and then install Manjaro, have access to the same packages, but noticeably see a performance improvement with Manjaro. Okay, so let's talk about the packages. How does that work exactly? Help me understand this, because one of the common things that I've heard and kind of seems to make sense to me is the Manjaro testing approach is sort of ineffective unless the scale of the community that is running the testing repo is enormous. That way you get enough spread across the packages, enough people that would maybe perhaps surface a bug and report it in time before it makes it out to the stable. It doesn't seem functionally possible unless you're at least the size of Debian. Am I wrong there?
You're not wrong at all. We certainly, and if it has ever seemed this way, then that was wrong and I apologize, but we make no claims that we test every single solitary package. Obviously, as you've just said, unless you've got like a Debian scale, user and developer base or whatever, it's pretty hard. But we basically are just testing the core stuff that's, from the boot process related stuff, and stuff related to the core desktop environments that we, that we have, and that's the main stuff we're testing. And then any of our users are on unstable or testing branches that are using other stuff. If they find stuff and tell us about it, great. But we test, basically we're very careful to test everything that if you installed our XFCE edition or if you installed our KDE edition, basically making sure it's not going to break booting the thing, and that you're at least going to be able to use the system for the most part. If some peculiar app here or something has an issue, yeah, maybe, but we'll generally get the boot process and the graphics stack and everything tested.
Very good. All right, what else do you have next in your notes, Rob?
What have I got here? I don't know if you guys want to actually talk about sort of the other differences between Manjaro and Arch. If you want me to get into it, into specifics.
Absolutely. Rob. Are you kidding me? I'm all about this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of probably the most key difference is the graphics stack, which includes these days the Xorg stack. But yeah, basically where Arch has like the Mesa libgl and NVIDIA libgl packages, and they conflict with each other. You install one or the other. Either you're running the NVIDIA binary driver, or you're running the free drivers, and you have Mesa libgl. We instead have our the Manjaro hardware detection tool, MHWD. It handles all the symlinking of the libgl files, so you can actually have the Mesa libgl, NVIDIA libgl, and also the Catalyst libgl installed all at once. And MHWD will actually you'll tell MHWD what hardware you've got and what driver you want to use, and it will just make symlinks for you. So that's it. And MHWD has got, these days, also has a graphical interface for the video card drivers. It's relatively new. So these days for users to swap video card driver is literally a couple of clicks of checkboxes in the Manjaro settings manager. But yeah, look, that's really the main key difference between Arch and Manjaro is how we handle graphics drivers and the graphics stack in general.
I like that. It seems much more user-friendly. I can see why you guys would do that.
Even also, we support Catalyst. So, and because AMD are not even, still to this day, not even close to NVIDIA in keeping up with the Xorg server releases, putting out drivers, like Xorg 1.16 just got released. NVIDIA has drivers out for it. AMD, no way. Who knows how long it's going to be. So we made the decision to support the current non-beta Catalyst driver. So our Xorg stack is dictated a bit by that. Gotcha. So yeah, we run our own graphics stack and Xorg stack.
How does Manjaro see Wayland playing into that in the future? That's a big one, right?
Yeah. Look,
is it kind of? Do you have to wait to see how Arch handles it, and then base your decision on how they handle it? And how will that work? Like when Arch say rolls that out, when they make that switch, like they did with Systemd, how does that kind of thing get processed in Manjaro? Do you roll with it as fast as possible, or do you kind of look at it and hold back?
With Arch especially, you can't even necessarily call it a switch because there's no reason why Arch won't have Wayland and Xorg in their repos. They may have both. They have both in their repos right now, and they may have both in there for years.
You could switch right now if you wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, but even if Arch starts recommending Wayland, we have no idea. Even if they start the recommendation, they still may keep the Xorg server in there for ages.
Yeah, they probably will for years.
And because Arch doesn't put out a pre-built desktop environment, like Ubuntu puts out Unity, so they have their stack, a graphics stack. Yeah. Arch is like, we don't offer you install media that has a graphical environment. You install and you decide, do you want Xorg or do you want Wayland? So, it's probably a decision we'll make for ourselves, but I mean, it'll all just depend on the graphics card driver manufacturers, NVIDIA and AMD, are they going to put out drivers for Wayland? And then the desktop environments, how long before they're ready to go with Wayland? I really couldn't say.
Sure. All right, next on your list. I like this. This is good. We're getting to some good topics here.
What else have I got? We've got our branches, the unstable testing and stable branches.
Right.
Now, the unstable branch, we sync to the Arch stable branch usually multiple times a day. It's generally at least once a day. Now, the unstable branch, though, does have a little bit of another purpose, I will admit. You could argue a little bit that the unstable branch could be slightly more unstable than Arch stable because we sync Arch stable to it, but that's where Arch stable gets synced to our tools, like MHWD and whatnot. And if new Arch packages come in and it breaks our tools, then we're going to need to update our tools. So that would happen in the unstable branch. And then the testing branch is very much, starting to get fairly reliable. And then the stable branch, obviously, is after it's been through testing. But that's basically it. Some great examples of why not doing what Antigros does and just pointing at Arch repos, but having our own branches is a good idea. For example, we used MDM for the display manager for the XFCE media for at least the last 3 releases, I think it is. When GTK 3 version 3.12 came out, using MDM to log into at least XFCE and I believe a few other environments completely broke. So if we had been pointed at Arch stable, at Arch, if we didn't have our own repos and mirrors, when GTK 3 hit the Arch repos, it would have broke, a hell of a lot of our users' ability to log in. But because we have our 3 branches, this kind of thing doesn't happen, and our stable branch users get spared from anything like that.
I see. I wonder if also are you aware of the I know this is a sort of esoteric problem, but I guess also Manjaro users weren't recently bit by the libx cursor bug that actually still affects me on my Arch installation, and so there is some I guess what I'm trying to get to the root of here is where does Manjaro deviate, and where they do deviate, does it seem like it's worth the cost of the deviation tax, whatever you want to call it, where there's extra work there? And to me, it all seems pretty logical. It all seems pretty reasonable. Is there any other sort of misconceptions on your list that you think we should touch on?
What else? I'm trying to quickly read through it and see if there's nice tidbits that I should go to.
Anything that's been wiggling away in your mind, you're like, man, I wish people would stop saying that. Jeez, I wish they'd stop saying that.
Well, if you guys want to, there's been talk about security, the handling of security bulletins. Certainly in the past there has been a couple of abnormalities with that. We have certainly tried to improve on that. Recent security issues like the GNU TLS crypto bug, I believe it was in Manjaro stable within 48 hours of being in Arch stable. So that's certainly not weeks behind like some claims in the past.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only note I have for the security. But we're trying to take a bit more of an active interest in important security bulletins that are going to affect our user base and make sure they are pushed through to stable. But of course, there's manpower issues and whatever. But yeah, I mean, we're certainly trying to keep the security stuff on the ball.
Cool.
So I want to get to the future here in a second. But Matt, do you have any other questions about Manjaro?
I think that was really it. I mean, I think just addressing the benefits of holding back a package for some users. That I've run both, and I've been bitten pretty hard by having it the latest and greatest without any real, without any real warning. Because I don't always have time to go through a blog post and read everything I do on Manjaro for the most part. But with the other ones, it was kind of hit and miss.
We are absolutely not just arbitrarily holding back packages for 2 weeks. We get whatever we have in unstable, we sync to unstable branch. We go, okay, everything seems good. Let's put that in testing.
Got it.
And then that gets tested and it gets tested by a few people. And we go, okay, this snapshot of packages we have right here seems to be pretty good. It's been in testing for a while. No one's had a problem. Let's put that group of packages that we know, all of that together is working, can go into stable now. But yeah, it's absolutely, it's not just completely arbitrary.
Okay, cool.
I want to know, Rob, now this is your softball question of the day. What are you looking forward to? One of the things that's really like you're excited about for Linux or Manjaro specifically, just down the road, 1, 2, 5 years. What are you looking out and going, boy, it's going to be great when that lands, or it's going to be great when we can finally fix this? Anything like that for you?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
You have a choice of anything almost.
I mean, look, I definitely want to see more games and business proprietary software come to Linux. I think the advent of SteamOS has been fantastic, to finally start getting some real gaming on Linux. And I want to see that continue, obviously. And look, I'm fairly interested in Wayland as well. As long as we're going to get good drivers that are going to perform well, then yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of research on Wayland, and I actually do believe it's has a lot of benefits over the Xorg server for a desktop system. And yeah, I'd love to see Wayland be what its developers hope it's going to be and work really well.
Very good. So, yeah, no kidding, right? Well, so last question then. If we had a time machine and we went forward 5 years in the future, and it's a great future, where does Manjaro fit as a desktop distribution, say with the likes of the other large desktop distributions? Is Manjaro a major contender? Is it the top distro? Is it in the top 5? What's success, say, in 5 years for Manjaro? What's on the right track?
Look, so long as we can, do a pretty good job of keeping the system stable and running for users, and we have made policy decisions recently that should prevent some of the recent issues there've been, like graphic stack policy issues that should make sure future updates don't cause problems for our users. As long as we can, keep it running well, then, I don't see why it can't compete at the highest levels with the other desktop distros. So, yeah.
Well, we look forward to watching the progress, Rob. I think it's going to be
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Just one other thing I will quickly mention that is an interesting project. I don't know if you guys have heard about it at all, but a company, Blue Systems, which makes the Netrunner.
Right. Don't they sponsor
distro.
Kubuntu?
I know Netrunner is based on Kubuntu. I know Blue Systems employs some people who are directly KDE developers.
Yeah.
And there's the Netrunner rolling release now, which uses Manjaro as a base. Those guys, and also with contributions from us and a couple of other people, they are right now developing a distro-agnostic installer that is a plug-in based system where you've got the base framework and different distros using different bases can write a relatively easy plugin for their distro and have a great working installer that has a lot of feature support and whatever. So basically, I'm looking forward to that coming along and being great and getting widespread usage.
Boy, it seems
Calamaris.
If they get that right, that could be really beneficial.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a hard thing to get right, but if you can nail it down.
Yeah, I don't really think there's ever been a truly distro-agnostic plugin-based installer that anyone wanting to make a Linux distro on their own base or any base is going to be able to use fairly easily as an installer for their system. So that's pretty good.
Sure.
Definitely.
Well, Rob, thanks so much for staying up really late. I know it's past 2 a.m. in Australia, so I really appreciate you coming on the show today, helping clear up some of these long-standing misconceptions and talking about the community stuff. Where should people go if they wanted to maybe help the Manjaro project out or get involved in the community? What would be a good place to land for them?
Certainly the forums are extremely active, and our IRC channel. The IRC and the forums are going to be the starting points. The mailing list, if you like, but our mailing list, unlike many other Linux projects, isn't that active. The forums are highly active.
Very good. Very good. Yep. Well, thanks so much for coming on the Linux Action Show, Rob.
Not a problem.
That brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But Matt, before we get out of here, we got to do some feedback and some follow-up and all this kind of stuff. And one of these almost made the runs Linux this week, but I got to be honest, the Vatican beats.
Yeah, the Vatican kind of won that out, I think. I mean, overall.
And I'm a little skeptical about this one. I really want this to be true. I think it's called Jibo. It is the world's first family robot, and of course, guess what? Runs Linux.
Right.
Is it legit, though? That's the question.
I think it's legit simply because of the fact that you look who covered it, and these guys are going to look really stupid if they don't check this stuff out. And so some of them, you got to believe there's got to be some truth to this.
All right, let me play the video for you. Let's watch this, and then I want the Linux Action Show to write in and tell us if they think this is going to be a legitimate product, or if maybe they're exaggerating a little bit. It almost seems too good to be true.
This is your toothbrush. These are your things. But these are the things that matter. And somewhere in between is this guy. Introducing Jibo, the world's first family robot. Say hi, Jibo.
Hi, Jibo. Hi, Jibo.
Jibo helps everyone out throughout their day. He's the world's best cameraman. By intelligently tracking the action around him, he can independently take video and photos, so that you can put down your camera and be a part of the scene.
Jibo, take the picture.
He's a hands-free helper. You can talk to him, and he'll talk to you back, so you don't have to skip a beat.
Excuse me, Anne?
Yes, Jibo.
Melissa just sent a reminder that she's picking you up in half an hour.
All right, so let's stop right there. How would Jibo know, how does it parse that email? So if Melissa sends Anne an email, says, hey, I'm going to pick you up in 15 minutes, is Jibo literally transcribing the content of that email? It read the from, so it just reads the first name, and then it just if she had said, hey, I'm stopping by the sex toy shop before I come over, would Jibo say all of that, or is Jibo just parsing the date information?
I think it's parsing. I mean, it's certainly plausible that it can actually parse it in a readable repeatable fashion. So like it's already got everything else in place.
But doesn't it seem dependent on
pulls the from?
How does it compensate for the human factor on the other end, where sometimes people put everything in the subject line, sometimes they put different stuff in the body, maybe it's formatted. I mean, how can it really do that?
Yeah, no, and that's where it gets a little sketchy. And bear in mind when it's a marketing video, they always pull the best out of it. Because I mean, let's face it, something that's supposed to end up in the spam filter, it's like, pardon me. The Nigerian princess just emailed you that you've won $1 million. I mean, that could happen. You know, you don't know. And more importantly, that initial video with the cameras, where are the gun turrets? I mean, come on. I mean, you know, it's like, I've got too much extended family as it is. You know, just solve two problems at once.
I don't know. I mean, so they're taking, it's like
grocery shopping.
Thanks, Jibo.
He's an entertainer and educator through interactive applications.
All right, so now this is obviously, this next part is obviously going to require the most sophisticated voice recognition engine we have ever seen, and it's possible, but here, let's play it out.
Jibo can teach.
Let me in, or else I'll... And I'll... And I'll blow your house in.
Hey, where'd you go? There you are.
He's the closest thing to a real-life teleportation device. He can turn and look.
And this is the one thing they demo that I actually think is possible.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The video streaming from a tablet to Jibo seems like you could do like a little video session as long as everybody's on Wi-Fi. I don't know. I'm a skeptical man, Matt. I admit that.
Well, and for me, this would be great for me because I'd send that thing in place of myself to the in-laws for holidays. Because quite honestly, that would be fantastic. I'd be home watching TV and being like, that's great. You guys are doing stuff, you know, whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. There's aspects of it that are sketchy. I'm not 100% sold, but I do love the idea, except for the fact where they showed the scene where it's like tucking the kid in or whatever. It's like, I don't really want that in my kid's room.
Yeah.
That'd be a little...
Remember, it can't move on its own.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like,
it's stationary.
You know, I've seen too many Chucky movies. I just can't do it. I'm sorry.
So they've got an Indiegogo going right now, and I mean, I think it's neat because it does run Linux.
It's either one hell of a hoax, but I mean, if the reporters reporting on this and I know this is a stretch, but did any homework and actually researched this and actually got some evidence that this is in fact real, this is a big deal.
Yeah. So we'll put it to you, Linux Action Show audience. Do you think it is real? Go over to Linux or go to JupiterBroadcasting.com. Yeah. Click the contact link and choose Linux Action Show from the drop down. Is Jibo legit? What is your verdict, dear audience? All right, we got an email to get to that I think resonates with both you and I from Mike. Mike writes in, he says, hey guys, longtime Linux user, you guys would find this interesting on Dropbox security risks, as Edward Snowden has recently endorsed SpiderOak. In an interview, Edward Snowden said that Dropbox, the cloud firm, is hostile to privacy and urged people to switch to a more secure service like SpiderOak. His exact quote is, Dropbox is a targeted wannabe Prism partner. They just put Condoleezza Rice on their board, who is probably the most anti-privacy official you can imagine, so they are very hostile to privacy. Of course, he goes on to mention, too, that SpiderOak has structured their system in a way that you can store all of your information on there where they don't have any access to it. You hold the key. We've talked about SpiderOak several times on the show.
Yeah, it's a good app. I mean, I've actually moved on to other things since then. I actually just went BitTorrent Sync at this point, but for my purposes. But I think that it's definitely, if that's the direction you want to go, it's a good tool. It runs well. Yeah, you know, I can definitely see it. Dropbox for me has been kind of more of a usability pain than anything.
So you're having some problems with Dropbox at that end.
It's annoying.
I'm not digging Dropbox from first of all, I don't want to pay even more for storage. I'm already paying for one of their pro accounts, and I'm out of storage again because of all of our media production. BitTorrent Sync is already in use a lot for externally sharing shows, so I like BitTorrent Sync from that standpoint. So I think soon I'm going to take a real close look at SyncThing and do a full review of SyncThing here on the show. We've talked about SpiderOak before. So here's how I'm doing it currently. Okay. BitTorrent Sync, all of the things.
Right.
Then, if I'm not using Dropbox for some media stuff. And then I have one machine, the server machine, has SpiderOak installed on that.
Okay.
And SpiderOak is backing up the BitTorrent Sync to the SpiderOak system.
I see.
I'm not a big fan of SpiderOak Hive yet. I feel like BitTorrent Sync is better. And SpiderOak Hive is the syncing aspect of it. But SyncThing is a fully open, top-to-bottom implementation, sort of like BitTorrent Sync. It's a little different, so I think we'll do a review on SyncThing, Mike, very soon and see if that might solve the problem. Because,
I want to see it develop a little more. But I like where it's going.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those deals to where it's kind of like, now, as far as your privacy concerns, you're just not doing it right. You got to have lots of images. I have photoshopped images of the NSA in the background. I'm going like this, and I'm giving it hugs.
Man, you are trolling the NSA. That is not a safe bet, man.
I don't care.
Not a safe bet.
I don't care. For one thing, I don't do anything derogatory or illegal. I'm playful. And I accept the fact that, whatever. They're going to do whatever.
They're not gonna
I mean, I'm just not on their
care.
radar. I mean, I'm not,
No, unless you
I'm
go
not
to
loud enough.
Unless you go to Linux Journal or Mashable.
Oops.
Or,
Yeah.
Hey Matt, what do you? If we were going to send people to check out some of the stuff you're working on throughout the week, where would they go?
Datamation.com. Scroll down to open source. You'll find my latest stuff there. The latest article to where apparently I've talked about Ubuntu way too much because I've also included a Slackware and Gentoo alternative, and that was totally overlooked on page 3. But whatever. So there's an article there you can check out. It's best Linux desktop top 10 candidates. Not my preferred title that they selected, but whatever. And so you can go there and check that out. And so read that. And as well, we are still doing Geek in the Gamer.
Geek in the Gamer.
I'm a little slow in getting the latest video uploaded, so that will be up hopefully here the next day or two. We'll see. But we're going back to a weekly format because it's just easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's way too much.
I hear you on that. I hear you on that. Nice. Well, that sounds like some good stuff. Just one more reminder, Linux Unplugged will be on Monday, and we'd love to have you join us. We might talk some more about Manjaro. We're going to take a retro look back at Linux of yesteryear, as well as cover sort of a big upset in the Debian community that got some press recently that it's, one of those things that we'll talk about Linux Unplugged. We'll get you guys all up to date on that. Hey, I'm going to be at OSCON next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you're at OSCON down in Portland, Oregon, be sure to meet up with us and say hi. Me and a few of the crew will be down there doing that stuff. Taking the train on Monday.
That's right.
I'm recording like 3 or 4 shows Monday, and then I'm getting in the car and driving down to Seattle to catch the train.
Remember those USB battery packs for your phone?
Yes. I already, I've already set them in a spot, so I will see them. Seriously.
I've made that mistake before. It's like, oh, crap.
I already set them out.
Yep.
We'd love to have you join us live. We do this show every single Sunday, and next week we'll probably have some good stuff from OSCON as well as all other kinds of goodies. Join us live over at jblive.tv, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UTC. You can go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, and our robots will automatically convert that into your time zone. And also, do not forget, because it is too legit to quit, the Linux Action Show subreddit over at linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Way more show than we could even fit in a weekly episode. Tons of content goes in there, and we use that constantly to get an idea of what you guys want to see covered in the show. Sometimes app picks come from there. Runs Linux comes from there. Feedback, all kinds of stuff. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. One of the best Linux news resources on the internet.
There it is.
Period.
Done.
Period.
End of discussion.
And one of the best communities on Reddit.
I mean, Jibo even gives it 2 thumbs up, and he doesn't have arms.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's something right there.
That is crazy. That is crazy. You can find links to our social profiles and all of that good stuff, as well as links to everything we talked about in today's episode of the Linux Action Show. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. I actually think that covering Linus's home office is actually news. Like, it's not just like fanboy masturbation, because in 20 years, that's going to be a historical document.
Oh, it'll be like going to Alexander Graham Bell's house, like, look at the setup or whatnot. He'll have like it all encased in glass.
Right.
Stuff, right.
It is actually, even though it's kind of comes across as like this lighthearted, fun video, and they look at Linus and he's just a guy and it's cool, but it is actually, in a sense, we are literally seeing history in the making.
True.
Because Linux is unquestionably already today, historically speaking, one of the most important software inventions ever, right? And who knows in 20 years how critical and important it could be. And to look back at what the man who helped start it all's office looked like at this stage is actually kind of an insight.
Well, I think the most important takeaway I got from the video when I first saw it was the fact that my desk is actually a little cleaner than his. And my desk looks like a hurricane threw up all over it.
I know, it's good. It makes me feel a lot better, actually.
Yeah, so thank you, Linus.
Yeah, thanks, Linus.
Awesome.
I agree. Hey, Matt, Q5 was wondering if in 1 year... Okay, so this is just a question. In 1 year, Matt, if Mir is still not the default display manager, would you be willing to wear a Winnie the Pooh costume?
Someone buys it, I probably would. It'd probably be warmer, though, because it's got like that big gargantuan head.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got a portable AC unit for the studio now.
Oh, well,
so we can always turn
solves
that on.
problem. And then you just hook up a vent hose right like into the side.
Yeah, my first year of typing class was on a computer, and then they switched it over. Or I'm sorry, it was on a typewriter. Then they switched it over to computer, so I took typing again.
Nice,
on the computer because I wanted to do computer stuff.
Yeah, totally. Right.
And I think Angela might have been in that class with me at that time.
Oh, right.
I can't remember.
That's crazy.
But whatever it was, the teacher who was the he had for 30 years he had taught typewriting on typewriters.
Right.
And so when the computers came, it was his last year, and the computers had come in, time, and he was not happy about it.
Oh, really?
It's my last year, and they brought all these damn computers, and you're just telling this to the high school kids.
We're rocking the Apple IIs or whatever it was.
So the dude has like 30 years worth of union sick time accumulated,
Right.
and he's like, I'm cashing this out because I'm only getting paid for some of it, and so he was gone all the time.
He's like, screw it.
So like when you don't have a projector and you don't have the TV, the second best thing is substitute teacher.
Oh God, yeah, because you're going to troll them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna
so
happen.
substitute teacher in a computer lab meant that Chris just got to do whatever he
Right,
wanted.
exactly.
And Windows boxes were so bad back then that I had like WinNuke, or I can't remember what it was called, and I could just remotely blue screen people's computers.
WinNuke was awesome. yeah, that was a good time.
Loved it.
Yeah, substitute teachers are great because they lean in and be like, whoever's at the front of the class, what do you guys usually do? Well, I usually sleep.
Right.
The guy
right.
next to me lights the desk on fire.
Well, and they have no idea that I've been trolling people in past classes. I got a clean slate with this substitute teacher.
I was a bit of a class clown, to be mild, so just a little.